Hello everyone and welcome to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. I'm your host Nigel Page, ex-pro downhill and four-cross rider, former World Cup and World Championships commentator and former team manager for the Chain Reaction Cycles Nukeproof factory racing team. Unfortunately, I've just recently been made redundant after 16 years of running the team, so I've decided to start this podcast to drown my sorrows and have a bit of fun along the way. Biking has been my life for almost 50 years, and I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences and knowledge and chatting to some of the amazing characters that I have met whilst doing the sport that we all love. I hope you enjoy, and most importantly,
stay on your bike!
Hang on. Oh, look at that. Right, is it still recording?
can you edit this so you can take stuff out?
Yeah.
I've forgotten what I have to say. Welcome to the Stay on Your Bike podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, are you ready, bud?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Stay on Your Bike podcast.
Nigel, this is the second episode.
Sorry, start again. Hello, everybody. Right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Stay on Your Bike podcast. In this episode, I'm actually interviewing someone else and not talking about myself. And this week, we've got none other than the legend that he is, Mr. Sam Hill. How you doing, lad?
Yeah, not too bad, buddy.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
How's it over in Australia at the moment?
Yeah, going good. It's, sort of starting to get out the back end of summer and starting to get into some cooler weather. So yeah, just haven't had any rain for a long time, so the trails are pretty dusty at the moment.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I think we've had all the rain. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
might have to come and get some, but
I think that'll be a plan, bud, for sure. Cool. Well, yeah, it's nice to see you. I've not seen you in a little while. We've had some bad news in the last few months with our team and jobs and stuff. But I think we'll leave that for this podcast, and we'll do that next time. But what I'd like to do today is just get a bit of info on on yourself and your mountain bike career, where you started out from, and we'll run through all that, and then we'll move on to some other stuff on the next few episodes.
yeah,
Cool. Well,
yeah, good.
first of all, do you want to tell us who you are and where you're from?
I'm Sam Hill, from West Australia. And I grew up in a little town called Glen Forest, and I've currently just moved a bit further south from there down to around near Margaret River, which is like a big wine and surf region down the southwest of Australia.
Sounds nice. Definitely gonna have to come and visit you there. I've not been to that part before. Sample a bit of your wine and check out your motocross track for sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So tell us, how did you start out on two wheels when you were a kid, and how old were you?
Yeah, so growing up, I from a young, as long as I can remember, was riding BMX bikes and stuff like that. And I actually started racing motocross as a young kid when I was about 4. Did that till I was roughly about 9. I think I had a couple of scary moments as a kid and sort of wanted to stop that. Started doing some BMX racing for a couple of years, and then my older brother and his mates sort of discovered mountain biking wasn't really a super popular thing back then. Yeah, and I used to just chase them around, try and keep up on my BMX bike, and eventually went to a local dual slalom race. Tried to race on my BMX bike with one back brake, but it was a bit of a wet day, and the old V brake didn't work too well. So yeah, kind of fell in love with the sport from there, and yeah, just it all just snowballed and progressed, and never stopped riding.
Brilliant. And I mean, I was when I got into mountain biking, I'd kind of done BMX and a little bit of motocross before. Um, I did the mountain biking probably the other way around to you, but um, I think both motocross and BMX gives you a really good base. The two things together go hand in
Yeah,
hand for mountain biking. Would you agree?
yeah, definitely. I think I've got motocross mates that I take mountain biking, and they're pretty good at it straight away, and vice versa. Mountain bike mates that will jump on a motorbike and they're pretty good at that too. So I think, especially now, and I've always done it and ridden a motocross bike as a bit of cross training in the off season, and you can see with a lot of the top guys, they're all doing similar things. So I think the skills definitely cross over and adapt help with each side of the sport.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I'd say with your mountain bike downhill career, you've always been pretty wild on the bike, and you've had tons of speed. But I'd also say that you're a pretty smooth rider. Um, you know, same kind of. I would sort of relate that to watching Jeremy McGrath back in the day when he was dominating the Supercross. He was super smooth on the jumps and on the motocross bike, and he started out on BMX as well. I'd say BMX racing at an early age gives you a really good smooth foundation for whatever discipline you do after that.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously BMX being around other riders as well, sort of that side of it probably helps with the motocross thing, and having riders battle you and race you like that.
Yeah. And for you, like obviously you've done amazing at downhilling where you're racing on your own, but you've also done really good at the odd four cross race that you did. Even without a good BMX start or whatever, you were always able to pass people and do really well at that discipline. Um, for you, what is more exciting, racing yourself against the clock, or is it more exciting to race other people? Would you say?
Uh, I think probably racing the clock. Um, I'd prefer the four cross stuff. I was never very good out of the start gate, so I sort of had to try and make moves down the track and be a bit crafty to make it through to the next round. Um, and then something I actually really enjoyed was one year at an Albury in Big Bear. They did a 4-man downhill.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
instead of the traditional downhill, it was 4 people, and I think it was a similar format to four cross. So the first two go through to the next round, um, which I remember I was quite pissed off because I think I probably had it quite good speed, but I got knocked out a bit early because I just couldn't get the first straight going, and then it was hard to make passes down that track.
Sure.
But that was definitely cool fun and something a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few races like that over the years. I remember doing a 4-man race here in Nuneaton, and yeah, it was real good fun. Up there, as it's quite tight in the trees, so it was also quite difficult to pass in certain areas. But it's definitely something that's interesting for the spectators as well. Do you think like the way the World Cup seems to be going at the moment, they're getting some bigger TV companies on board, and it looks like it's going to, the races are getting sort of tailored for the TV, I would imagine. Do you
Yeah.
think there's time now for doing some events like that? Maybe some downhill multi-rider events, or do you think it's too hard to do?
I think it would be cool, but it'd have to be done right and have the right style of tracks and that sort of thing to make it work. I think, but it would obviously definitely be exciting to watch on TV and a cool format.
Definitely. Well, let's see how it progresses, and yeah, I think some of the race organizers should take note of that, and maybe we'll see some cool stuff that we used to get to do years ago come back. But yeah, let's see. Well, anyway, going back to the early days, you said you did that first race on your BMX bike. Was that your Auburn BMX bike, or was it a different one?
No, I had a aluminium Mosh
Oh yeah,
BMX bike, which was my upgrade after the Auburn, even though that's my favourite bike of all time. But yeah, and then started out on that, and used to do. I did my first few actual races on that, and my dad was never a big fan of mountain biking when we first started because the race tracks were 2 minutes long and he thought it was stupid. So he'd make us stay and do the cross country the next day. So I'd boost my seat post up and duct tape a drink bottle holder onto my BMX bike, and off we go around a few laps of that. So it's
not like
definitely
not like Merv to try and save a bit of dollar.
yeah, a bit of a tight ass on the entry fee for a $2 race, he reckons. 2 minute race, sorry. But yeah, it was definitely good when I finally did get a mountain bike and off the BMX bike, and then I sort of really started progressing.
And
from
what
there.
was that first mountain bike you got?
It was we went on a family holiday to America, and I think I had about $400 saved up from doing a local job down the road, and I actually bought a frame from a shop called Performance, but it must have been like their house brand frame. And then I couldn't afford much, like all the parts for it, so I had a rear shock and suspension, but I ended up running it with a rigid fork for a while until I ended up selling my BMX, and then I bought a suspension fork for it. So definitely wasn't a very fancy bike, that's for sure.
Didn't seem to slow you down, bud.
Yeah.
And so from there, like, how did you get, fully into your mountain bike racing?
We just used to go do the local state series. I was sort of started winning those, and then got to a point where we used to do a category race. And then at the end of the day, they would do a top 20 of the fastest times of the day would all go and race. Didn't matter what age or category you're in. So I started becoming into that top 20 bracket, which was awesome, and I'd try and push myself. And eventually, I was pretty quickly doing the elite men times. So I think when I was about 14, 15, I just moved myself into elite, and raced with those guys to try and push myself along. And yeah, Dad helped me get to the Australian National Series in 2001, or the end of 2000, going into 2001. They had 3 rounds over there, and then after those rounds, I sort of got noticed by Scott Sharples, who was the Australian downhill coach at the time, and he took me under his wing a bit, and I got selected to race Junior World Champs in Bale in 2001.
Yep.
So yeah, the transition and the way it worked was quite fast, I think. But I'd always come home from school and watch the videos of guys riding, and never really dreamed of it turning into a job or being anything like that. It just sort of ended up going that way, and yeah, kept setting myself goals, and
Brilliant.
yeah, turned into something pretty amazing.
Cool. And so that 2001 Junior Worlds you did in Vale, what bike were you riding then?
I was riding a bike called a Cortina,
I remember
which was just like an American family that pretty sure just made bikes in their garage. But yeah, I love that thing.
Brilliant. Yeah, you can't beat a US made bike in a small garage.
Bit of alloy, you reckon?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from how did you get on in that World Championships in Vale?
I ended up getting third. Ben Corey, an Australian, won it, and then a French kid called Julian Camillini got second.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool to go over there and just witness the whole I guess massive race scene, because it's the first time going overseas to that sort of thing.
Brilliant. And then the following year, you ended up on Intense, didn't you? How did that come about?
Yeah, so the next year going into 2002, Scott Sharples had spoke to Jeff Stever about trying to help me out a little bit, and he sent me a full M1 downhill bike, all the gear, everything. It was yeah, it was pretty unreal to get all that stuff come in the post as a pretty young kid. And then yeah, obviously travelled with the Australian junior team that year, and Scott Sharples did a couple of the World Cups and spent a fair bit of time in Europe. And when we were at the World Cup races and stuff, like Chris Kovarik was on the Intense team, and he actually like would help me out a lot with my bike setup and sort of just giving me little bits of advice here and there, which was super cool.
Yeah, Chris was always really helpful with bike setup and just sharing his knowledge of racing and riding. He was always great like that.
Yeah,
And that year at Worlds would have been in Caprun, was it?
yeah. From Worlds was 2002, and I managed to win that one.
Yeah,
which was awesome. Um, yeah, probably still now today. That's probably one of the tracks that's high up on my list as one of my favourites too.
great. And I remember I'm pretty sure you won with the big 2.7 Intense tire on the front, didn't you? The 4-ply
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The big monster truck front tire with about 9 psi in it.
Yeah. All the grip though.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Brilliant. And well, that was for me, that was kind of coming to the end of my, racing World Cups, kind of competitively, not to the level that you got, but so I kind of transitioned. I was riding for Intense at the time as well, but I'd got
Yeah,
injured that year, so I didn't race Worlds. But I remember watching you and thinking, wow, this is amazing that Intense have got you onto their bike and stuff. What happened from there? Like, did you have an option where you could have rode for Intense for the factory team the year after, or what happened then?
that yeah. So I think Jeff offered me support again with bikes the following year, but I don't think he really had room or budget for me to travel and stay with them at the races. So then I got a phone call from from Sean Heimdall, who I've never heard of at the time, and he was putting together a team with Ironhorse bikes and Mad Cats. Um, and I remember I was at the Red Bull ride, Jindabyne, and Nathan Rennie was there, and he'd pretty much just signed for that team, I think. And I knew obviously Jared Graves, Bryn Atkinson, and they were also on the team. So yeah, it seemed like a cool thing, and it gave me the opportunity to go do a full year of the Norba races, which was the American National Series back then, which was quite a big series and a big thing to go and do. Yeah, and the deal was to do that in the North America World Cups, and then I ended up Nathan was doing all the World Cups, so I just saved a bit of money at home and paid to go do those with him, which turned out being really good.
Brilliant. And I mean, you skipped over that quickly, but you managed to win that Red Bull Joyride thing as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I was still on the Intense M1 then, and that I think I won about $6,500 Australian. and that's kind of what helped me go and do the European World Cups and have a bit of money to live over there.
That was super cool. I remember watching that, and it was great. I remember watching you race run, and you were flying down there, and kind of I saw so many crashes and sketchy moments, but you made it look pretty doable, and I'm sure it wasn't. I think you even snuck a couple of cheeky no footers in, didn't you?
Yeah, there might have been a toboggan in there or something.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to get down. I don't know, as a racer, I just wanted to get through it all, really. Especially that skinny wood, weird plank in the middle of the air. I thought the quicker I can get across this, the less time I got to fall off it.
Yeah, that's fair play, mate. Fair play. I wouldn't have even got past the first obstacle, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
So tell me this. Obviously at the time that the Intense M1 was, it was a pretty iconic bike. There was lots of other teams, on big bike brands that were riding Intense bikes with
Yeah.
the stickers on and stuff. Jeff Stieber made an incredible bike, and he still does to this day. But how was it going from the Intense straight onto the to the Ironhorse? Was the I guess as World Cup racers, we hadn't heard too much about Ironhorse bikes, and was there much difference in the bike?
Um, the actual suspension design and layout was actually really similar
Yeah.
to the Intense. We also had the fifth element shock, which was what we had on the Intense. So I don't think I really struggled or like knew too much different.
Yeah.
The rear end of the Ironhorse was real wiggly and flexed a lot. So they ended up making us like some prototype swing arms that were a lot stronger and beefier after the first couple of races. So that made it actually become like a really good bike to ride.
Cool. Well, I mean, it didn't hinder your performances, because I think the first World Cup that year that you were on that team was Fort William, was it?
Yeah, yeah,
And tell me a bit how that went. I think that the year before in Leger, you'd got 10th at the last World Cup. Was that right?
yeah, yeah. So in 2002, the weekend after the Capron Worlds was the World Cup final in Leger, and I ended up getting 10th there, um, in like the elite category, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so going into the new year, heading to Fort William, it was me, Nathan, Rennie, and Jared Graves that flew over there for that. And me and Graves were just super excited. We'd never been there, and I think we'd done about. I feel like we did 13 runs, and then couldn't even hold on. That place used so many holes and so rough. And anyway, Jared decided he'd go for another run, and he never come back down the hill.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think he got to the woods and smashed a tree and blew up one of his kidneys, and then he was in the hospital. So that was a bit of a bummer to see him. That sort of ended his season, which sucks. But yeah, the race, I don't know, felt just did my best race run and come down with a pretty good time, and then it sort of was getting closer to less people being on the track still left to run, and I was still sitting in a pretty good position. And I remember just hoping that I was not going to get top five because I was too scared to go on the podium. And I ended up fifth, so I had to do it.
But I think you
Pretty awesome to think about that. I was still a junior at the time.
yeah, incredible result. I think you're probably the only downhill mountain biker in the history of the sport that has ever wished that you weren't going to be on the podium at a World Cup.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was just a shy little kid that was too scared to get up there, really.
No, it's so cool. I love that story, mate. And it just shows, your personality, and I think that's one of the best things about you. You leave your bike riding to do the talking. You never big yourself up. You never show off, and that just I think it's a lovely trait that you have.
Yeah.
So anyway, so on the podium at the first round, did that change any of your focus for the rest of the year, or did it give you any change your goals that you thought you wanted to achieve that season?
I don't think so. I think at the time I was just super keen on doing as good as I could at every race. Um, I think I had a couple of top tens later on after that, but I didn't get on the podium again. I don't think that year.
But then later on that year was the World Championships in Livigno, was it, or
Yeah,
Lugano?
yeah, Lugano, Switzerland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually I was over there for that race because I was doing the commentary for the BBC and doing
yeah,
a presenting for that race, and I remember walking down the track while the practice was going on, kind of showing the BBC guys which places to film and what to look out for. Obviously, they were interested in the big names at the time to interview them and stuff like that for the TV. But I remember seeing you in practice there, and you were absolutely hauling.
yeah,
And that race went really well for you. I think you ended up winning junior by 10 seconds, did you not? You beat G by 10 seconds,
yeah. Maybe 11.
11 maybe. I'm
Uh,
giving G the benefit of the
yeah,
doubt there. But
uh,
you also crashed on that race run, and you got the fourth
yeah,
time of the day. Were you about 3 or 4 seconds off the fastest time of the day?
yeah. I would have. Yeah, it wasn't very far off it.
So
Yeah,
that was incredible. I mean, I think for me, that as a fan of the sport, that was obviously, you'd had a fifth at Fort William, which was incredible, and you'd won the junior world title the year before. But
yeah,
the pace you were riding that day, and the result that you would have had, if you hadn't have fallen off, you'd obviously had the fastest time of the day. I think there's only Nicholas Vulio that's ever done that before.
yeah.
Having the quickest time as a junior rider. Um, did that again? Did that just boost your confidence even more? Do you think, or
I don't know if to be honest, when I crashed, I thought that I'd lost my chance of winning the race. And I remember a couple of journalists, I think Mike Rose was there, and they were sort of talking to me, and G was still coming down the track, and he'd crossed the line, but I didn't really even believe that I'd won just because of my crash. I thought I didn't have a chance at it, and then obviously the elite guys came down after that, and my time was still really good amongst those guys. I don't know. I'd say it probably gave me confidence and maybe a even bigger goal moving into elite the next year to know that I can like try and make my goal being the world champion and going for that.
yeah, definitely
It probably definitely made me more motivated and hungry going into that next season.
for sure. And so, moving into your first elite World Cup season the year after, who were your teammates that year?
So going into 2004, it was me, Bryn Atkinson, and a, a Canadian kid, a French Canadian kid. Um, can't really remember his last name. Mathieu Lorin.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I think Bryn's deal was to do more of the North America stuff, and me and Matthew were doing the World Cup stuff.
Okay. And so, 2003, was Rennie still on the team then, or not?
Yes, 2003, Rennie was on the team, and he won the World Cup overall that year.
Yep, yep.
And then he left the following year, I think, for Syndicate. Yeah, and that's when it was. Yeah, it stayed me and Bryn, I think.
Okay. And then obviously that team, you were on Ironhorse team run by Sean for quite a number of years, but it went through a few different names, didn't it? Started off with the Mad Cats, and then where did it go from there?
So it was Ironhorse Mad Cats for a few years, and then I think I don't know if it just became Ironhorse or Ironhorse Monster Energy. Um, a bit further down the line, yeah.
Cool. And during that first year in elite, what were your goals coming into that year, and what did you achieve that year?
I think coming in, I just wanted to win really badly. Uh, I had a good year. I think ended up second overall in the World Cup series, but I didn't get a win that year. Had a few second places and a few, yeah, I was probably on the podium most of the time,
Yeah.
but couldn't manage to get an actual World Cup win that year.
Okay, so I mean, coming second overall in the World Cup on your first year elite is, phenomenal achievement. But I bet you were pretty keen for a win.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that year at Schladming, I felt really good for a win. I was felt really fast. I don't know what I qualified. I can't remember what place I qualified, but I knew I could have won it. And then I think just the pressure I had or on myself, knowing that I could win it, I ended up just riding the finals real tight and didn't put the run together that I wanted. I think I ended up third, and I think G ended up winning that. It was his first World Cup win, and I think Rennie was second.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it. And
We got revenge at a few slabbangs after that, so it's all right.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and what about World Championships that year? How did that go for you? And where was that at?
Worlds that year was at Leger in France, and I ended up. I felt like I didn't have a road practice that well, and I didn't feel up to speed going into the finals, and then just gave it everything I could in the finals. Ended up third. I think Fabian won that, and then I was second.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking back on it, I feel like I could have done it differently, but it's all part of learning and all part of the journey, I think.
No, for sure. And I mean, to come third in your first year elite at Worlds, still an amazing achievement, especially with some established guys that had been racing racing a lot longer than you had at that point. Um, so still an amazing result.
Yeah,
And then just before we move on that Ironhorse team, obviously you had quite a few different teammates over the years. I mean, Sean put together some amazing rosters on his team. He definitely had a talent for choosing the right riders. Who
yeah.
was who would you say was your favorite teammate at that time on the Ironhorse program, and who was probably the worst person to hang out with for whatever reason?
uh, I don't know. When yeah, I'd say Justin Havakainen was a really good teammate. He was on the team about 05, 06.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, me and him just got along really well. We raced juniors worlds together. So I had a good relationship with him. But yeah, I don't feel like throwing anyone under the bus for
It doesn't
for the
have to
worst.
be. It doesn't have to be like a horrible thing. It could be, the worst person to motivate you to do well at the races, or the person that would, try and talk you into maybe partying too much and not keeping you focused on the racing. I know I definitely lost out hanging out with Warner a few weekends because of that kind of stuff. But was there anyone who was super motivating for racing, and anyone who kind of tried to steer you the other way?
Nah, Brendan was always up for a good time, but I think I was more focused and a bit smarter than him at certain times. So yeah,
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, you've had some amazing teammates on that program, and a lot of those guys, in my opinion, owe you a lot for what you did to help them in their careers as well. So cool, but well, also before we crack on talking about your Auburn you had back in your BMX days as a kid, can you see that frame in the background?
yeah,
Does that remind you of anything?
yeah. It's pretty. So yeah, a bit of a tribute to it.
Yeah, that
Fluoro green with a chrome back end, me Auburn had.
yeah that
That's
was
pretty cool.
the bike that had got painted for you. If you'd have done Worlds last year,
Yeah,
so unfortunately that didn't happen last year because of injuries and stuff. But yeah, I managed to get that frame over from Michael, sent that over, so I've got that for you when I see you next. Nice thing to go on the wall in the shed.
yeah, definitely. She would have been fast down Fort William, I reckon.
Definitely. But I think we've got faster things to come. Don't worry about that
I
for
hope
now.
so. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So obviously we were talking about your teammates on the Ironhorse team, and that you were on that. How many years were you on that program for?
I was on horse bikes from 2003 to 2008 was the last year,
Okay, and then obviously
and then it became like a monster specialized team
yeah,
with Sean and JC again.
sure. And so obviously you started out on the Ironhorse team with that kind of M1 replica. What
Yeah.
year? What year did you first race on the Sunday, which is obviously a
Um.
iconic bike for your your results?
Yeah. So we ended up with prototypes of them, sort of like the off season of 2003, and then we started racing those in 2004. And then they sort of evolved a little bit from '04 to '05. I think that's probably around when they became a production bike.
Okay, and that was Dave Weagle that came up with that design with the DW link.
Yeah.
Was he working closely with your team, or how did that work?
He was working with. He pretty much had the design and the bike and everything like that, and then for a couple of years we sort of changed the geometry slightly to how we would have preferred it, but not too much changed on the bike.
And was the bike much different from the intense sort of linkage design bike? Was there much difference in riding it?
Yeah, definitely rode different. It didn't. I don't think it felt like as plush, but it felt real stable no matter what you sort of rode through or like what you hit.
Hmm. And obviously you had some incredible results, and I think that bike for sure put Ironhorse on the map at the time. I think every young downhilling kid that was coming into the sport pretty much went and bought an Ironhorse Sunday because of what you achieved on it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a good bike helps a good rider win, but you know, in my opinion, I think you would have won on any good bike at the time. But was there anything that you thought, you know, that was super special about that bike that enabled you to get some of those results that you did, or was it just a combination of you know, you were getting faster, the bike was working for you, and you know, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I do think that it was sort of just me getting faster, obviously learning from the experience that I was gaining going overseas and doing the World Cups. Um, I I don't feel like the bike did anything super amazing that you could notice straight away, but I don't think it did anything bad. I think that was the best thing about that bike and the design that it was. It was just super predictable, and I always knew what it was going to do and how it's going to react.
Yeah,
And obviously that just helps you build your confidence riding and lets you sort of push to be faster, I guess, without being worried about how it's going to react.
of course. And obviously, in 2004, you were racing that bike, and was that the first year you won your first Elite World Cup?
No, 2005 was the first year I won.
Okay, and that
Yeah,
was that at Pila, was it?
nah, Schladming.
Oh, Schladming was your first win. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The year after I should have won.
yeah, got you.
Yeah.
And so, tell us a bit about that season and what results you got that year.
So yeah, I was having a good year again. Obviously, one Schladming, and then I think Mont Saint Anne was a couple of weeks later, and we'd gone to Mont Saint Anne, and me and Justin Havakainen were riding some of the other trails, and then I ended up breaking, going over the handlebars. I broke a bone in like right in my elbow joint.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I missed racing the Mont Saint Anne World Cup, and then I flew home to take a bit of time to recover for that, and the team went to the Brazil World Cup. That was the first year they went to Brazil to race over there. So yeah, I just took a couple of weeks off. Um, tried to let my elbow heal up, and still was doing some training at the same time, managing what I could, and then went back to the Pila World Cup, and I won that one, which was awesome
yeah,
to come back and win.
you won that
Yeah,
by decent margin, didn't you?
yeah, I think maybe like 7 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that
Um,
you were hauling there.
yeah, that was a cool track. And then I think from there we went to Livigno Worlds. Yeah, I was feeling really good. I think I qualified first, and then yeah, I think I was up at the splits on Fabian, and then near the end you had this like pre-hop into this big hole that like dipped back up. I remember I just went a little tiny bit too long, sort of squirreled at the bottom, and lost a bit of momentum, and I think he beat me by 0.7 or something like that of a second.
Yeah,
So
I,
then yeah, the podium had just flipped from the year before. So Fabian won again, I was second, and now Greg was third.
right, okay. Yeah, I remember that race. I was also at that race watching. I kind of remember that mis mistake you had at the bottom. I think maybe you blew a foot off or something when you landed, or I can't quite remember, but I remember it being pretty wild.
Yeah, no, I was pretty bit disappointing, but again, something that I guess probably made me into the rider in the race that I became.
And I'm pretty sure at that race as well, it was always getting windier in the afternoon, and that was you know, before where when they actually had you know, a seeding run at World Championships. I believe, if I remember rightly, Fabian, you know, was quite, and the French team were aware of that wind at the top of the track, and he qualified slow, so he was off earlier before the wind got too bad
Yeah,
in the afternoon.
Yeah, I showed Bam, my kid, that I found it on YouTube, and you watch Fabian's run, and the tape's not even moving anywhere, and then there's sections where you watch my run, and the tape's like being pushed by the wind halfway into the track, and
Yeah.
that probably didn't help either. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we know, the French have always been pretty clued up on race tactics,
yeah,
if putting it nicely. Um,
yeah,
and
definitely.
that's part of World Championships. And that's the way it went that week. And what did you end up in the World Cup overall that season?
Feel like I got second again.
Even with the rounds that you
Yeah,
missed?
yeah.
Pretty
I feel like I got second, yeah, pretty much every year until I won it, 2007.
cool. And so, so after that year, obviously you went back home and carried on training ready for the next season. Tell us a bit about how the season after that went.
Yeah, so 2006. Yeah, um, just did the same thing. Trained all off season. Felt good on the bike. I believe I won the Norba series that year, which was pretty cool. I think
Yeah.
that's the last year. I think they had
Yeah.
that series up and running, and Minar was on the Honda team then, so he was doing all of those.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool because one of us was pretty much winning, and the other one was getting second. So that was a good little battle going that year in the Norbers, and I feel like it's quite cool that I managed to win a series before that sort of became something that they don't do all the time anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing. The
Uh,
North series was always, it was an amazing series. When I was racing, a lot of the top guys would go over and do the World Cups when there wasn't a go over and do the Norbers when there was no World Cup on, and
yeah,
the prize money was actually, better at the Norbers, and some of the tracks were amazing.
yeah, some super cool tracks that we got to go and race over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the World Cup again. I think I got a few wins that year, and I think I ended up second again.
Yeah.
Seemed like I was always second to either Greg or second to Steve in the overall.
Mm.
And then the world champs were in Rotorua in New Zealand, and yeah, felt like it was a pretty fun track. Had a lot of different sort of sections and bit of transitions in between really cool parts of the track. And yeah, managed to win that, which was my first elite downhill win, which was awesome. There's a lot of Australians there
Yeah.
cheering us on and that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
incredible.
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was incredible. And I remember, going to that track with you years after that race, and you showed me some wild maneuver that you pulled in the middle of the track.
Yeah,
Um, I believe that was key to that winning run, I think.
yeah, I think so. That was sort of like split a split section. You could go do a drop left under a tree, or you sort of like wiggled right a little bit and then joined back on. But I had a bit of a risky line where you just basically had to commit and pull up, and try and land off camber between the two trays. I think I only did it once, maybe twice, and then just sort of kept him in my back pocket until the race run, and it worked out. So
Unreal. And
yeah,
when you say a bit of a risky move, it was a little bit bigger than that. Yeah.
well, it was either going to work or it was going to go badly. So
Yeah. But yeah, when you showed me that section, when we were there together, it was definitely it's definitely a man's move, and I can see how that would have saved you a good amount of time on that section. So yeah, fair play. I think that's where some of your iconic runs have come. You've took bigger risks and bigger, hit sections faster than anybody else on the day, and sometimes that's worked out for you, and other times it's you've crashed and burned, but
Yeah.
being by far the fastest guy on the track, and I think that's you know um, it's made you the iconic downhill rider that you are, and why you've got so many fans. So
Yeah.
cool stuff. And so obviously winning your first Elite World Championships, getting that rainbow jersey, that is amazing. A lot of people that have had amazing results, won World Cup overalls, won multiple World Cup races. They've never achieved a World Championship, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Once you'd achieved that goal, was the next goal to then try and win the World Cup overall?
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole time I was racing, obviously the world champs was always my biggest goal and focus. Um, and it always seemed like each season there was one track or venue we'd go to that it would let me down points wise to battle for the overall. But then coming into 2007, I think I was just a better, stronger rider, and yeah, didn't let any of those previous mistakes or weaknesses sort of hinder my performance. So yeah, I think I won the World Cup overall that year, which was awesome, and then I backed up the world champs win in Fort William, so to win them both in the 1 year was pretty special.
Yeah, there's not many people do that, Sam. That's a phenomenal achievement. If you'd just done that in your career, it would have been remarkable. But obviously,
Yeah.
you've won a lot more than that, and we'll get onto that as well. But um, so what would obviously you've won so many World Cup races in your time and events. But what would you say has been the icing on the cake? Which one of those races has meant the most to you? Would you say in all the the wins that you've had in your career?
Um, the obviously the first Elite World Championships is always going to be special to me. Well, then some of the races I've won after coming back from injuries, um, just because of everything mentally and physically that you go through, I think they hold a pretty special place as well. So 2010, I'd smashed my shoulder up pretty good, and then went to Montana World Champs pretty much with 1.5 shoulders. And I remember Troy Brosnan was on the team, and I went and watched at the finish line. He just won the junior men's category, and I think that sort of boosted me a bit to just dig deep. And yeah, I remember coming down the track, and my one arm just was barely hanging on. So to win that after a pretty tough year was fairly awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal. And that was that the how many years had you been on Specialized when you won that race? Was that the first year or second year?
Second year, yeah.
Second year. And tell us a bit about that move from Ironhorse to Specialized. I mean, obviously you had some incredible results on the Ironhorse. What came about the move for the team to go to Specialized, and how was the bike compared to the Ironhorse? Was it much different or not too much?
Yeah, so towards the end of 2008, the team was sort of looking for a new bike company that could give us a bit more budget to go racing. And there was a few different ones that we sort of spoke to and talked to about doing that, and then Specialized was super keen to make something happen. So yeah, that sort of just evolved like that. And they had a decent downhill bike, but they changed the geometry and a bit of stuff to make it work better for us going into 2009. And yeah, not longer after we signed with Specialized, Ironhorse ended up sort of folding as a company anyway, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2009. Had a lot of good races and won the World Cup overall that year. And then I think the world champs were in Canberra in Australia on a super flat pedally track.
Yeah.
And I trained a lot for it and still went there hopeful that I could try and win, but yeah, ended up fifth, I think.
Yeah. I think you didn't you ride on the like an adapted trail bike?
Yeah, I rode their shorter travel bike. That was a bit lighter and set up a bit better for the pedal at the bottom.
But it still had a fairly wild rock garden at the top. Do you think that was the right bike for you looking back, or do you think it was, you might have gone even better on the downhill bike?
I need an e-bike, I think, for that. But yeah, obviously the rock garden was quite a short section. So for me, I don't feel like it would have made a difference in my result. But I do know that looking back on the footage, there's a line that Steve Pate did in there that was clearly faster than everyone else, and he ended up winning the race. So yeah, I think the rock garden's where he won it, but I don't think being on a different bike would have changed my outcome.
Fair enough. And did you, obviously you had amazing results again on the Specialized. Was there any points to the bike that was better or worse than the Ironhorse, or were they both just really good bikes and any difference in them?
Not sure. Obviously, the Sunday was something that I've spent a lot of time on. It's super comfortable and such a good bike. But yeah, I did actually quite enjoy the Specialized in 2009. Can't remember exactly what we changed on it versus their production bikes, but we did change a few things that they'd done for us, geometry wise and with the shock, I think.
Yeah.
And then yeah, moving into 2010, they came out with the newer version of their demo bike, which I obviously didn't spend a lot of time on. At the start of the year, I think I was coming into the season after just having an ACL surgery. And then I qualified first at Maribor, and then I ended up crashing in the race and ended up fifth. And then
still fifth though.
Yeah. And then the following race at Fort William, I blew my shoulder up.
Yeah.
So that was me out pretty much until the World Champs, end of 2010.
Yeah. And where were the World Championships that year?
That was in Mont Saint Anne.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I made it back for the last World Cup in Wyndham.
Right.
Then,
yeah.
I think I was like 13th there.
Yeah. And then that was the World that you won.
Yeah. So I think after all of that and 13th the week before, I don't think I was a hot favourite for winning it.
Yeah. But you did.
Yeah.
Cool. And so, with the different bikes that you rode and making adjustments to things, is that something that you and JC worked on together? Like, did you both come up with ideas that you wanted to change on the bikes? And were all the companies that you work with, were they all, 100% on board with any of those changes that you guys came up with?
Yeah, I think everyone we've worked with along the way has been open to trying to help us change things if we need to make changes and that sort of stuff. Obviously, if it's going to help us be faster and get the results, it's a good thing. So, yeah, I think JC's super good at understanding the information I relay back to him about bike setup and things like that, and then obviously he can pass that information along, probably in a more simpler way than me trying to explain how the bike's reacting when I'm riding it and how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's obviously just come from our relationship and how long we've worked together, and he's been my mechanic since 2003.
Yeah.
So we just got a good understanding of how to relay that feedback to each other.
Yeah. Brilliant. And so, obviously, you've won some amazing results that we've just talked about, but you've also, you've had some amazing race runs that you haven't ended up winning. I mean, the two standout race runs for me was obviously the 2008 World Championships in Val di Sole, where you were, by the time you crashed in that last corner, or second to last corner, sorry, you were probably more like 10 seconds up on everybody else. And then to me, I don't know. I mean, that I was at that race and I watched you come into that last chute before you fly out into the field, and I literally thought your brakes had broke or you'd lost your mind. I don't think I've ever seen anybody ride a bike that fast to even to this day. I mean, that race run was incredible, but I think equally as incredible was your race run in Chompery when you ended up third in the rain when anybody else who came down in the last 30 men or whatever. I don't think anyone was within, maybe only Mikel Pascal was within 30 seconds of the Matty's time in the dry. Which one of those two races for you felt the most special, and which race would you have preferred the outcome for you to win the most, would you say?
Definitely, if I could change the outcome, it'd be the 08 World Championships. But yeah, I think obviously at the time I was just doing everything I could to try and win another world champs, and I don't feel like I was out of control or anything like that.
No.
Just I think that the track had dried out a bit, that corner, and even when you watch replays, I've sort of foot off, drifted for a bit, and then put my foot back on, ready to exit the corner, and then the front's just gone on that last little bit of bank. So I don't know. That one's always hard to watch.
I bet.
And then Chambéry. I remember just being at the bottom, pissed off. To be honest, I had a pretty decent crash in the middle of that race round.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a weird triple knuckle bump thing into a right hand berm.
I remember it. It's wild.
Yeah, so I remember coming into it wondering if I should go for it, and I jumped it, and then I just had so much speed into that corner that being wet, I couldn't slow down.
Yeah.
And I think my bike just took off over the berm. So if it hadn't been for that, I probably still would have won the race. But
For sure, you'd have won by miles. You could have literally pulled over, rolled every one of the triples, skidded round the corner, and still won the race.
yeah, but yeah, like you said before, my racing style's always either trying to win or crashing and burning at some point. So I've crashed and thrown away a lot of races, but I've probably won a lot of races because that's the way my mind's wanted to go racing.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why. Along with myself and many other people, is why you're such a liked and followed and downhill ride, one of the most iconic downhill riders there's ever been. So yeah, cool stuff, mate, for sure. And so after you rode for Specialized, you had a bit of a period where you weren't winning as many races, and you were not on the podium as much. What was going on then? What do you think was happening on those years?
Few things I think, but so in 2010, Specialized went to that new version of their demo. It was aluminium bike still, and then in 2011 they come out with the carbon fiber one. I every race I went to, I'd question myself sort of why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, and it wasn't till I sort of got on a new bike a couple of years later that I realised that the bike was way too stiff, and I was just sort of struggling to keep it in position where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think kind of that's sort of the early stage of carbon downhill bikes, and obviously being a lighter material and not always knowing it's probably easy to overbuild
Yeah.
the bike rather than underbuild it where it's going to have problems. So I think that's sort of where that comes from, and yeah, I guess a few strings of injuries as well. 2011, I did my shoulder again, so that's 18 months where I had 3 big injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of just made it hard to sort of recover and come back from that each time.
For sure. And do you think that, do you think the injuries, did that affect your confidence on the bike, or did it affect your confidence in, just believing that you could win races because you weren't racing as often?
Uh, it kind of just made me frustrated. I almost felt like I was trying harder, but I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
So I definitely made it tough to want to be away at the races, because in my mind I should have been doing a lot better.
Yeah. Sure.
I even think for the team and stuff, they probably expected more of me, but it just wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, from the outside looking in, people just see results, but that there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes with injuries and everything that comes with that. Um, and so, uh, when you came towards the end of your specialized contract in 2012, did they offer you another contract, or how did that go, and what gave you any interest in the team that I was running?
So I was a couple bits behind the scenes that sort of happened. That made me a bit unhappy there. So I was sort of having a look around. And yeah, I'd obviously noticed you guys had that new prototype bike, and I thought it looked pretty cool. And then, yeah, you sort of got chatting to me about wanting to look for a new rider, and I was super interested in it. And yeah, I was looking to get away from the specialized bike, to be honest. And I think you posted me out your own private bike for me to try and test ride, and I remember I took my current specialized and your bike to my local downhill tracks. My dad was shuttling me, and I did probably 5 runs first on the specialized, and then the first run I did on the Nukeproof, probably halfway down the track, I knew that I was going to sign the contract pretty much. So just felt easier to ride. The bike stayed on the line that I wanted, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's sort of what made me realise about the whole stiffness side of the other bike.
Right.
And that's something that just wasn't gelling right with me.
Cool. I mean, yeah, obviously I sent you got that bike posted out to you. I was super nervous because, obviously that was our second generation of downhill bike for Nukeproof, and we were kind of, you know, um, doing all that stuff ourselves between myself, a guy called Brant Richards, Dave Garland, our old mechanic, and Dale and the guys in the office, and but when I sent it out to you, I was thinking, flipping heck, wonder if it's going to be any good. So I was pretty nervous.
Yeah,
So it was amazing to hear back that you liked the bike, and then when we were able to put the deal together again, I was super nervous again, thinking, oh no, now I've got someone with your caliber and history on the team. That was pretty nerve-wracking for me to then realize I was in charge of that program, and I was hoping I wasn't going to completely mess your career up. But
yeah,
it obviously it was amazing to get you on board, and it was an incredible run we had there with the team. um and straight away you started, in that 2013 you had some podiums for us on the team. I remember you
yeah,
qualified second or third at Val de Sol, and I was pretty confident you were going to be able to back that up with a win there, and you had another unfortunate crash halfway down there when that rock had rolled into the track. Um, but what was, obviously our team, me running the team was I try and keep it fun as well as trying to do the stuff I need to do to make the team function. But
yeah,
was it a lot different than, say, riding for the teams you'd rode in the past?
yeah. Definitely, I think it's definitely a bit of a organized chaos in a way, which doesn't bother me because I'm quite an easy go with the flow person. But yeah, definitely um, just some new faces and new people, and a new experience brought a lot of fun. Um, back to me being traveling and racing and that sort of thing. And yeah, I think even though sometimes it wasn't probably super organized, it was without realizing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much me as a person. I can't. I try and be better, and I'm. That's just who I am. Um,
Sometimes gonna wing it. So
I definitely have to wing it. Yeah. So obviously, riding for the Chain Reaction Nukeproof team, and the organized chaos, as you quite nicely put it. Um, what did the change in the team environment? Obviously, we've had some good fun and stuff, but did that motivate you to try and start? Obviously, you always want to win, and
yeah.
like you mentioned before, you had issues with injury and stuff, and but when you move over to a new team, um, did that motivate you to want to win again, or was there much difference in that program to, say, the specialized program?
Um, I don't know. I think when you're having fun, you ride good. Um, I obviously really got on with the downhill bike, and that's was a big reason in me joining the team. Um, but yeah, just still wanted just to prove myself, and I guess as much as I want to win, I wanted to give you guys in the team a win, or prove to you guys because you're believing me by signing me. Um, so yeah, always put pressure on myself really to try and achieve my goals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, we did what we could in our own way to help you, you know, win, and I wanted more than anybody else, probably as much as you. I wanted you to win as well.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long till you did win. Running a race team, I'd had some great results over the years, and I'd had some incredible riders on the team that I'm super grateful for. And then obviously when we were making our own bikes with Nukeproof, it was then really special to get some wins on those bikes as well. And the first win for you came in Mont Saint Anne in 2014. I remember Troy
Yeah.
just pipped you earlier on in the year, didn't he? In Fort William.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was I think was that Troy's first win?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we was happy for him, but at the time I was thinking, little bastard. But yeah, I knew your speed was coming, and then when you won that race in Mont Saint Anne, I think it was the same weekend that Santa Cruz and Specialized had launched. I think they both launched their new carbon downhill bikes at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you won that race on our, square tubed aluminium pulse, I thought that was definitely one of the best days I've ever had at a downhill race. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. I think obviously that was quite a special one for me. After a string of injuries and not winning for a while, and then, like you said, in 2013, being on the team, had some good results, but just was never on that top step of the podium. So when we got it done in Mont Saint Anne in 2014, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was fantastic. I mean, that whole year was so fun. I've always been loved downhill, been a big fan of it, been a big fan of yourself, your career, not just when you rode for our team, but when you won that day was amazing. And then a couple of it wasn't long after it was the World Cup finals in Maribel, and for me as a bike rider, that track looked so much fun, and to me what a downhill track should be like. It was pretty natural. It had big wide sections, it had fast sections, it had technical sections in the woods, and the World Cup finals there, and the whole Chain Reaction Cycles events team comes. I don't know if you remember, we had it all set up at the finish line, and
Yeah.
it was a good day. And then you managed to win that race as well, and that was another day I'll never forget. It was incredible.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That was a pretty awesome track there. And yeah, I think obviously building a bit of momentum, heading into that year, and then getting the win at Mont Saint Anne made me sort of more determined than ever. And Maribel was a good track, and I knew I could get it done.
Yep.
So yeah, it was cool to do that, especially with all the chain reaction people there with their big setup.
Yeah, it was a unreal day. And tell me this, mate. Like, obviously, both myself and you only ever rode flat pedals. There's been other guys on the World Cup circuit that have won World Cups on flat pedals. Nowhere near as many as you, but I'm pretty sure Blanky and Brook, the only World Cups they've ever won. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were both on flat pedals when they won those races.
Yeah.
Most people seem to, even if they've had good results on flat pedals, they go over to clipless pedals because that's what the majority of people use.
Yeah.
Is it ever crossed your mind that you thought you needed to go and clip in, or have you always just been happy with the flats?
I think obviously when I started it was sort of a bit 50-50 in the World Cups with who was clipped in and who was running flats.
Yeah.
And then yeah, obviously when I've had all those results, it's not something that I'm going to go and change and try and teach myself had a ride, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. I just think that the trend nowadays is you got to be clipped in, and obviously the new generation and kids getting into the sport, they look up to who they see riding and racing, and
For sure.
there's not many people out there with flats, so everyone just thinks that's what you got to do.
Yeah. And do you think the way the tracks have gone lately, do you think that it is more suitable to clips, or do you think it doesn't matter?
Um, Definitely some tracks are going to suit flats, and some are going to suit being clipped in, and that's where I think it's sort of just they even themselves out, and the pros and cons sort of outweigh each other at the end of the day, and it's whatever you have more fun on and you're more comfortable riding and racing with it, I reckon.
Cool.
And to me, sliding your bike's a lot more fun than pedaling fast. So
Yeah, definitely, and it does look a lot better as well. I think, obviously, like I say, I've always run flat pedals, but I can't slide my bike like you, but doesn't matter. But yeah, I think obviously, the achievements that you've had on the flat pedals, as well as, again, aided to your fan base. Uh, I think some of them other guys that had great results on flat pedals, if they'd have stuck with them, I think they'd have had other great results as well. But anyway, that's another discussion for another time.
yeah,
So just talked about two. For me, anyway, you've had a lot more wins than I have running a race team. But one of the hardest days for me when I as being a team manager was when we went to Norway that year for the World Championships. You know, you'd just come off winning the World Cup finals. You'd never previously won at the Half-Yell track, I believe.
yeah,
That year, both Mike Jones and Joe Smith were riding really well, but they didn't get chosen for the GB team. But we decided to go as a full team to support you. As yourself and JC, and then me, Mike, and Joe all went to support you. And all through practice there, you were absolutely flying. I had my stopwatch out doing timing and stuff, like I was one of the French team guys there. And yeah, you were faster than everybody in pretty much every section. And
yeah.
tell us a bit about that weekend and how that race went.
Yeah, I think coming off a great World Cup season and a couple of wins, and going to Half-Yell, I don't think I did terrible, but I haven't done great there in the past. And yeah, just straight away felt super good on the track. Yeah, had a couple of good lines, had a couple of sneaky ones that I tried to keep a bit under wraps, but I probably did it one too many times, and got a few other guys on board to doing the same line. But yeah, come race run, I think I was hitting everything really good, and then going sort of again. That's probably two corners from the end. Um, there was a rock garden, and you could either go like inside, kind of over like a bit of a bigger rock that hid some of the rocks behind it, or you could go outside and it would straighten you up coming in. And yeah, just went over that one rock, and my front wheel was probably 4 inches offline, and just stopped on another big rock back there and flipped me over the bars. So yeah, sort of picked myself up and got to the finish line as fast as I could. I don't know what place I ended up, but yeah, had a bit of a sore neck, and it's just another one that got away.
Yeah, I think you had an MRI a few years later for another injury, and it looked like you'd actually broken one of your vertebrae in that crash.
Yeah, that's had an X-ray probably 2 years later, I reckon, on my spine, and they said there was two compression fractures in there. Which yeah, probably relates to that crash. I had a neck brace on at the time, and I remember the back of the neck brace had cracked. And yeah, because it was the end of the season, I didn't think too much of it, but I definitely went home and had a sore neck for a few weeks.
I'm not surprised, mate. You needed to be more flexible than Jurgs to get away with that one.
There's no one flexible enough for that man.
But yeah, I mean, that was obviously that was a tough day for everyone. I know how much you wanted to win that race, and I wanted you to win that race. And yeah, shit happens, done it, and didn't happen that day. But after that, we had a new bike coming, a lighter version of the downhill bike we had at the time. And then you went home, trained for the following season, 2015. Mike Jones was hauling as well. You'd helped him all through 14. He was just following you down the track, pretty much every run and getting faster and faster every week. I think you and Mike seemed to get on really well, and it was a really nice team vibe that year.
Yeah.
Also, Joe's a bit quieter and does his own thing, but again, a phenomenal bike rider. But yeah, it was a good time. And then just before the first race in 15, we were all pretty confident with the season that you'd had in 14 that we could, achieve some amazing results. And you ended up getting injured right before the first race, didn't you? And then that year just kind of went downhill, as we'll call it.
Yeah. So I think me and Mike Jones come and stayed with me for quite a while in the off season, and we were both feeling pretty good. And then I think JC had come down to stay with me for a little bit and do a bit of bike setup and stuff, and we were literally doing some shuttles on a local track, and the front wheel just washed out, and I must have put my arm out and tore my shoulder to pieces. So yeah, that was a bit of a tough one to deal with after having such a great year in 2014.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much killed that whole year.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's hard to come back mid-season after, or even at the end of a season when you've had that, bad an injury. And then obviously, Mike started off that season really strong. You were at the first race with your shoulder injury, and Mike managed to come fifth in Lourdes. You were helping him throughout the weekend and walking the track with him and pointing out sections that you would be riding, and it went phenomenal. Mike ended up, as I say, third on the podium there. And then Mike had speed all that year to be on the podium, and he qualified second, third, and then crash in the finals. And I think Mike just couldn't quite somehow piece the pace together without you being there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that just me thinking that, or what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. He had some really good speed going that year, and pretty good fitness, I think. But just I don't know what he was doing in the race runs. He just didn't like the visor on his helmet, I think. Kept wanting to blow that thing off.
He definitely had a few new visors, didn't he? He wasn't helping the plastic crisis in the world. Definitely.
No, he wasn't.
And do you think that's a big thing for when you're on a team to have a teammate that you really get on with, and because obviously we all spend a lot of time together, and sometimes it's inevitable that you're going to be missing home, and being stuck with the people that are on your race program, is it really important to you to have a teammate that you gel with?
Yeah, definitely. And then if it's someone you're comfortable with and they're a good rider and you can sort of feed off each other and help each other out during practice with lines and whether one rider goes first and then you swap around and try some different stuff, you can actually work quite well together like that and help each other out. So yeah, having someone that's fun to be around and not too much of a dickhead, it's good.
Cool. And and then anyway, we'll cut to it. But the next year, obviously, we were still doing some downhill racing, and you were trying to get back up to speed after your injury. But I'd done a deal with Mavic, our long-term wheel sponsor, that we would use a few more of their components and help them push the clothing and the components that they were doing for the up and coming enduro sort of race scene. And a lot of people were getting into enduro racing and riding because the bikes had got better. People didn't, maybe were getting a bit bored going to the local downhill races, only getting 4 race runs, and the enduro
Yeah,
where you're out on your bike all day, it seemed to be picking up momentum. So we ended up I did a deal with Mavic where I said we would do 4 of the Enduro World Series races. And the first one we went to was in Ireland. And I remember saying to you, are you ready for this Enduro? And you said, is the Enduro ready for me? And then Bosch straight on the podium with a second. Um,
yeah.
what were you thinking? Were you thinking I was crazy at the time, suggesting we were going racing enduro, or what were your thoughts on it?
Uh, I think I was kind of excited. I'd done a couple of local ones at home, um, as part of my training and just for fun, and I actually really enjoyed them. And I think heading into 2016, we just had our third son born, uh, so it was making it harder for me to get out and do downhill runs and that sort of thing. And it was a lot easier just to grab my trail bike and go for a 2 hour ride or whatever it was. So I think for me, that year I was a lot more comfortable on my enduro bike than I was my downhill bike. And yeah, I think when we went there, I obviously did good, but it was new and it was exciting, and I found it a lot more casual, I guess, than the World Cup downhills were at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really enjoyed it, and yeah, Ireland had some sick tracks, and it was a cool weekend, and yeah, sort of, I don't know, just lit a bit of a spark in me for enduro. That did.
Yeah, it certainly did. And then later on that year, you had an iconic battle with 10 times downhill world champion Nicolas Vulio on his home tracks in France, and
Yeah.
you managed to win the race there in Valberg. How was that kind of win to you? Did it mean as much as winning a downhill race, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the fourth one that we'd done that year, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, did one, I think we did La Tuile in Italy.
Hmm.
I think I got second there, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we did Whistler. I found that one a bit more challenging. I was maybe seventh or eighth or something like that at that one, and then yeah, going to Valberg. Um, yeah, crazy tracks, and obviously Nico's someone that I've idolised since I started mountain biking and knew what mountain biking was, and never really. He sort of was it retiring as I was coming into the sport, so
Yeah.
to sort of battle with him, um, that weekend, it was a 2 day event, and yeah, he told me how badly he wanted to win it, and I almost felt guilty going into the last stage, knowing that I was going to win it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was just awesome to be sort of going backwards and forwards with pretty much the the hero of the sport, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure, mate, definitely. And then from there on, you won 3 straight world championship titles. I mean, incredible, really, if you think about it. Sam Hill, I idolized for flat pedal riding, not pedaling too much, and keeping it lit on the downhill tracks. To then going into enduro and winning 3 straight consecutive world titles. And that's not just one race; that's the whole series on flat pedals. In my opinion, you completely changed the sport of enduro. Obviously, there was lots of good riders, but your image that you brought into enduro, in my opinion, just elevated the sport. And for a good few years, the tracks were getting more and more gnarly, and the competition was getting harder and harder. People saw you were doing it, so they were coming in to do it as well.
Yeah,
And we had a great run there, didn't we? It was
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. I think obviously when we committed to doing the full series, my goal was to see if I could try and win an Enduro World Championship, and I yeah didn't probably didn't fully expect it to happen that first year, or to get 3 in a row. Um, but yeah, it's just the whole vibe, the team, and us all riding around and having fun and enjoying the time on your bike. That's why we all ride at the end of the day. And we travelled to some pretty awesome spots and rode some pretty crazy tracks.
Yeah, yeah, it was phenomenal, and I've got to say, massive thanks for all the effort you put in with that, and winning those 3 world titles was phenomenal. Especially that 2018 year where you started off and won the first 2 rounds, and dominated that year, and Elliot managed to win the under-21s. That was an incredible year for the team and for Nukeproof bikes.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, obviously downhill is like, people see it as the pinnacle of this, like the F1 of the sport, which I guess it is. But the industry sells a lot more enduro bikes than downhill or cross country bikes, and I think what your achievements you've done with the race team on the Nukeproof Mega, which was originally made just for going and pedaling up the hill and razzing down it like a mini downhill bike. I think it's incredible what you and we all achieved there.
yeah,
Uh, Amazing. So anyway, we'll start to wrap this up shortly, because I know I've taken you for a long time, which I appreciate today. We've got lots of other things that we're going to be talking about, so we'll do another podcast soon.
yeah. Sounds good.
Before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask you a couple of things. You know, what out of all the bikes that you've ever owned, what would you have to say has been your favorite bike?
Mm, I've had some pretty cool ones.
You certainly have.
Uh, my favorite looking bike would have to be the custom painted Nukeproof Mega Gravedigger,
Yep.
which is the one I raced and won that Valberg um, EWS on.
Yeah, that was
So,
incredible. What Rob getting that done for you there. That was a lovely looking bike.
yeah, obviously I've had a lot of custom bikes and cool ones and ones that have won races. And there's a lot to choose from. So, but I do think that Gravedigger one's probably the coolest looking.
Brilliant. Cool. And so going into, obviously, we've got some plans coming up that we'll that I'm excited about, that we'll talk
Yeah.
about in the next podcast. Super excited about that and to share that with all the listeners and viewers. But if you were to start a a new downhill program now, out of all the current crop of downhill riders that are on the World Cup circuit now, who would you be the most worried about that you'd need to beat, and also who do you think would be the most ideal teammate for you?
I'd say the most dangerous person I think that is always fast is Loic.
Yeah.
And he has been for a few years, and yeah, he just seems to keep putting solid results together. So I think he'd probably always be the man to beat. But there's so many fast guys at the moment, and people that are capable of winning and being on the podium. But Loic seems to be able to rise to the occasion more than most, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as a teammate with the new generation, I'm not too sure. I haven't spent a lot of time around the World Cup, so it'd be hard to choose one. But if I could bring back Brendan or Majestic Mike Jones, that'd be pretty good.
All right, brilliant. That's great. Cool, mate. Well, thanks so much for your time. It's great to see you.
Yeah,
And
good to talk to you, mate.
yeah, and you as always, bud, and we'll definitely be seeing you soon. We'll
good.
keep everyone informed on what we're up to soon, and we'll have another episode and talk a little bit about that if that's okay with you.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks again, and I hope everyone's enjoyed this. Yeah, so as I say, we'll catch up again on the next podcast with what we're going to be up to over the next coming years. But if you've enjoyed this, please like and comment and do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. Obviously, the more people listening and the more comments you put, I can ask questions to Sam next time. Hope you've enjoyed it, and again, thanks very much, Sam, and we'll see you soon.
No worries. See you, buddy.
Cheers, bud.